And welcome back to the Financially Simple Experience, friends. We're trying to destroy the complexities of money for today's business owners. That's the goal here. Over the last 3 episodes, we've looked at the blind spots specifically around exiting our business. As you well know by now, I went through this process myself, first and foremost, over 3 businesses in the last year. This entire emotional roller coaster of transacting and moving my business from a illiquid position to a liquid position. Very, very, very tough. If I'm honest with you, I will say that one of the months involved in this was one of the toughest months of my life. The emotions. Oh my goodness. The guy who literally teaches this day in, day out at the Exit Planning Institute, the guy who writes for national publications like Forbes and Kiplinger, the guy who received awards on a national level as the leader in exit planning in the exit planning world. I mean, I've written books about this, but here I am bearing my soul saying, friends, there is no amount of prep that can prep you for the emotional roller coaster you're going to ride as you are exiting your business. But one of the things we can prepare for are the blind spots. And in the last 3 episodes, we looked at the blind spots, and I wanted to just kind of do one cursory wrap up the ideas all in one location of these 3 different blind spots that we need to be aware of. And obviously, the 3 episodes previous doesn't cover all the different solutions or all the different strategies or problems or considerations that we as business owners may have, but nonetheless, it addresses the top. So for example, one of the most common things I hear is, hey, I want to sell my business to a key employee. Yeah, we just talked about that. There's a lot of reasons that you might consider it because of continuity of business, because of the ability to continue your vision. However, they may not make a good business owner. They might not be able to secure financing. They might put you in a position where your risk is actually increased. If you don't do it right, you could have potential tax issues involved. And there could be a familiarity bias that, oh, well, he'll work for me attitude comes along with timely installment payments. I mean, there's a lot of blind spots that we need to cover up. Another idea we often hear, we talked about in detail is, yeah, I'm going to sell it to my family member, my son, my daughter, my cousin, my nephew. Just like selling to an employee, it could fall into a position where you're going to have to carry a note. They can't afford the financing. There could also be a risk that they're not ready for it. You have not chosen the right successor. The dynamics of the business will not accept them into the business. You maybe don't have the time to fully walk them through an apprenticeship model so where they gain the trust of all the key stakeholders in the company, the key customers in the company, the key vendors of the company. The rest of the family may not agree. You may end up with some sort of a disproportionate movement of the value of the business that you're selling to one child versus your other kids. I've seen it all, friends. I've seen it all. Tax planning comes into play huge when it comes to working with your children, as so does estate planning and estate equalization strategies. So there's a lot of holes that we got to face whenever we're selling it to our kids. And as we looked at our last episode, when we sell it on the open market, yeah, you may potentially get a higher price point or a higher contract or a higher LOI, but finding the right buyer is hard. You personally may not be ready for it. Your finances may not be structured in such a way that you can handle the structure of selling it to an outside buyer. So there's a number of things that we have to look at when we're talking through these structures. We have to close the blind spots. The biggest blind spot I see, and I said it last episode, is the price point. Whenever we sell to an outside buyer, the seller says, okay, I'm selling it for $10 million, I'm going to get $10 million. Reality is probably not, because of the business structure, look-back periods, clawback periods, earn-outs, various things are going to move that number down. And so these are some blind spots we need to know about. So how do we fill the holes? That's where I want to drive in today. Yeah, we got these blind spots, and I kind of walk through the holes that we have, but how do we, as business owners, proactively fill the holes today so that when we arrive at that time, that decision point to say, I'm ready to sell my business, whether it be to a family member, an employee or an employee group, or an outside buyer? How do we fill the holes? The first thing is you've got to create an exit plan. You've got to create, the old term was succession plan. You've got to have a succession plan. You say, well, Justin, I've got that. I've got a buy-sell agreement. Friends, if you're looking at a buy-sell agreement as a succession plan, you need to go back to episode 1 of this podcast series and listen to it to present. It doesn't work. A buy-sell agreement is there for catastrophe. It is not there for you to close your wealth gap and drive a business to from an illiquid position to a liquid position. You need to create a true exit plan. Somebody who's going to come in and tear your business apart and look for the areas that can close the value gap and the profitability gap. You've got to have that. And then you've got to put in the work. And let me tell you, doing exit planning and value creation is hard work. No other way around it. I can remember as a teenager, one day my dad and I, we did 2 things in the summertime that I'll never forget. We hung tobacco in a tobacco barn. We harvested tobacco in the South Georgia heat and ended up hanging it in a tobacco barn. That was hard work. And if you've ever done that, you're sitting there saying, you're right about that, Justin. I don't want to ever do that again. The other one we did is we baled hay. So we're in this hot fields of South Georgia. We've got hay that are being baled into these heavy square bales, and you're baling them. You're getting them off the machines, throwing them on the ground. You're picking them up, throwing them on a trailer. You're stacking them on the trailer. Then you're moving them to a barn, stack them in a barn. Again, hard work. I remember I've done that a time or 2. I think I would rather throw sod. And if you've ever thrown sod, I've thrown up to 4 semi-truckloads of sod in a day, and that's exhausting work. My goodness. Exit planning is mentally and emotionally just as exhausting as what I just painted to you with throwing sod or baling hay or hanging tobacco, or as they say in the South, tobacco. It's hard work. You've got to build an exit plan. You've got to get perspective. You got to get a different perspective. We have this thing called familiarity bias, and we know what we know about our business, but it's become so common to us that we can't see the holes. It's that close proximity that we really can't stand back. I love looking at oil paintings. I'm not much for art, but I love seeing how people can take and look in the micro, and you really don't understand what the colors are doing, but when you step back, what a beautiful portrait. What a beautiful painting. My mom used to do cross stitch. And on cross stitch, you actually use thread, and you put a picture using thread on through a loom on one side of a canvas or one side of a cloth. Oftentimes, though, where the artist is looking at is the backside, and the backside of the cloth is messy. It has strings hanging off of it. It has multiple colors that don't really make up a picture of anything. And as I would watch her in the early days doing cross stitch or doing smocking for little girls' dresses, I would sit here and I'd say, "Mom, how do you know what you're doing?" And then she would occasionally just turn the loom over, and you could see the beautiful picture that she was creating. See, in our business, we often just see the back. We can't see the picture we're creating. We think we know what it is, but we don't. It's that perspective. So first thing is get an exit plan. Work with an exit planning advisor, preferably a certified exit planning advisor, and build you an exit plan. If you don't know one, reach out to me. I work at, or I teach at the Exit Planning Institute, and there's an army of CEPA, certified exit planning advisor, that I know we can help with your particular situation. Then get a different perspective. This is where a coach comes into play. Just like you've done before, you've got to consistently walk through strategic planning. Strategic planning is not the end-all be-all. Yes, it causes you to think. Yes, it causes accountability, or it should cause accountability. Reality is you're not going to accomplish everything that you outline on the strategic planning process if you do it right. So you continually walk through the strategic planning process. I'm a proponent, and I personally have used, which is what drove my value to best in class, of having a coach come alongside and walk us consistently through the strategic planning process. I firmly believe in it. You say, okay, Justin, we just did that some time ago, but my key team members are not fully utilizing it. Patience. Rome was not built in a day. Continue to motivate, continue to work with the coaches, continue to drive. More things are caught than taught, right? We talked about with children, rearing children. You've got to go through the strategic planning process consistently. One of the things that I personally love to do, and I did this on a monthly basis, was walk through a SWOT analysis. What do I see this month as the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats of my business? I've had a few clients do this. Now they grow weary because it seems like, it gets mundane. But for me, it was an exercise that I love to do. It was not an exercise in futility. It was one that actually helped me think. So I do that on a monthly basis. It's a lengthy process to do an exit plan, to build value. You're going to have a coach. Let me say it again. You need a coach. You need a coach. You need somebody that understands where you're going. They don't have to understand your business. This is what's crazy. This is what's amazing to me. In the world of business, right, we have financial advisors that want a financial advisor only coach. We have dentists that want a dental only coach. We have car repair companies. I want a car repair company coach. Friends, there's only 3 types of business. You have manufacturing, retail, and service. 3 types of businesses out there. All 3 business models are the same. This is how crazy it is on this coaching world to me that makes me go crazy. Let me ask you, do you only read books around business written by your particular industry? It'd be like for me in the financial advisory world, only reading books written by financial advisors. That means I would never read Simon Sinek. I would never read George Clausen. I would never read, the list goes on and on. Thomas Stanley, the millionaire next door. He wasn't a financial advisor. Why is it we think we have to have a business coach that's just in our world? I would challenge you that you need a business coach who is not an expert in your business, and let them ask you lots of questions and challenge you and make you defend why you're doing what you're doing. And if you can, great. But oftentimes the speed and efficiency that a coach brings to you and the accountability that they just consistently drive. You know, one of the things I have the privilege of doing is I still work with a handful of clients that I began working with years ago. I know their dreams. I know their families. I know their struggles. They've gone through some hard times. I've had clients have children that's passed away through accidents. I have clients that have debilitating illnesses. I have clients that have demons in their mind, keeps them up at night. We all go through this thing of business ownership, just wears on us. But man, I'm telling you, be able to do like I did yesterday and say, hey, we were here 3 years ago. Here's where we're at today. And then to watch a little bit of calm, a little bit of resolve, a little bit of peace come on that business owner that, hey, it's not all for nothing. I'm telling you, friends, a coach can help you. Personal experience, I'm talking to Justin here. I've used coaches for years. I currently have a coach that some executives in my current company, WealthSource, are using because coaches are powerful. We have a whole division, WealthSource Business Advisors, with coaches who are trained and credentialed to be able to drive exit planning and value creation. We've done it. I'm there. I've done it. We're not talking from an academic standpoint. Years ago, I met an individual who had received an MBA. And this particular individual tried to come into the small business world and educate, almost like this looking down my nose type of education process, that I know more than you do because I have an MBA. Oh, Lordy, Lordy. After about 3 weeks of this individual pushing and pulling, they quickly discovered that they didn't know, as my dad would say, jack squat. Didn't know when it came to the reality of the world. The way I equate this in the world that we're in, friends, is that we are going to transition our business at some point. We are not going to live here forever. We have this asset that has some value to it that we want to make it as valuable as possible. We know that if we invest in it properly, it will give us better returns than often the open markets can or real estate can. We know that. We experience it. We see it. We can control it. We can drive it. I love going hunting. I love spending time in God's creation. Years ago, I was introduced to the Wild West, the Colorado Rockies, the Idaho Rockies, Montana, Wyoming, Arizona, just seeing the mountain range out west, going to elevation peaks of 12, 13, 14,000 feet, seeing a whole different species of animals than we have here on the East Coast. First time I went, we hired a guide. That guide knew exactly where to go to see elk, mule deer, bear, porcupines. I wanted to see a porcupine. I'd never seen one before. I got to see a porcupine. He knew exactly where they were. He didn't stand back and study it from Google or sit in a classroom one day and sit there for 2, 3, 4, 5 years and get some sort of a degree and say, okay, I'm now officially a guide. No. He spent 20 years in that particular mountain range. He knew where every water hole was. He knew where every crevice was. He knew where the horse paths were. He knew where the trails were. He knew where the animals slept, where they ate at. He knew where they took baths at, literally got into wallers and cooled themselves off. He knew when the temperature was at this level, what the mountain was going to do. He knew it because he lived it. He experienced it. Friends, the blind spot is only going to be covered, are only going to be revealed, and only going to be ultimately prepared and repaired for your ultimate sale, your transaction, your exit. It's only going to happen whenever you couple yourself up with clear thinking, determination, and somebody who has walked that path, who's lived there, who's breathed there, who knows what you're thinking, knows what you're feeling, able to tell you no, able to tell you stop, willing to put themselves out there. It's like, look, if you don't like this, we're done. Let's go, right? You need somebody with tenacity that can come alongside quickly and effectively and get you to where you need to be. Friends, if you delay, if we as business owners delay, then whenever that time comes where opportunity of selling your business, opportunity of exiting to your family member, your team members, an outside buyer, when that opportunity comes, you're not going to be prepared and you're going to either miss it or get less than desired value. And you will end up in that 96th percentile of people, business owners who regret the sale. So I want to come back around and say, look, I've just gone through this yet again. 6 times now I've exited a business. Friends, if you're a business owner, please hear my plea. Please hear my exhortation to you. Today is the day to begin value growth and exit planning. Period. Not tomorrow. Today. If you don't, you'll have deep regrets. Look, I realize it's hard. Making decisions and doing things, it's hard. It's like, how much more can we take on? I get it. Been there, lived there. I get it. Over 3 decades, 30 years almost living in that seat. I know what you're thinking. It's hard. It doesn't have to be. Check out Financially Simple. Listen to the podcast. Read some books. Reach out to the team. We have a team of experts who are certified that can help you in your particular business journey. Until next time, friends, let's continue to make our lives at least financially simple. Make it a great day.